Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from AnthonysCustoms, and for this review, we are looking at the SH Figuarts Kinnikuman Big the BUDO figure, which is a very unique looking character. He's humongous, and he's got some shiny parts, and some metallic parts, and some flat parts, and big baggy pants, and just a very, very unique figure. So I was very excited to review this when my buddy said he was going to loan it to me to review, and I think you guys might like it. It's got some cool features, and also some kind of problematic things. So I think we should probably just get it off the stand so we can take a closer look. This guy stands just about 7.5 inches tall, a little bit more, which makes him just about 19.5 centimeters. Pretty close to that anyway. Depends on how you have him posed. And you'll see that is especially true for this guy once I show you how his torso works. Very unique. Like I said, we've got the shiny plastic up here, which looks like armor. Most of the rest of it is flat, including I'm assuming that's just his skin, the black parts. That's mostly flat. We have the metallic blue, which looks really nice. We have the semi-glossy pants, which have a lot of shading in them, so that's cool. This is painted very nicely, so aesthetically it's very well done. The mask up here is a separate piece, so the silver is very clean, and you can see the eyes. Hopefully you can see the eyes through there. Yeah, you can. It's very nicely done, so I like that. Most of the figure is aesthetically pleasing. Before we get into it anymore, though, let's talk accessories. We have 3 total heads. The head that comes on him, which has the eyes behind the mask. We have one without any eyes behind the mask. And then we have an entirely different head with hair and a different mask and a beard. Then we have a few different hands. We have the 2 fist hands, 2 gripping hands, and then 2 hinged open hands. And the gripping hand would be used for his sword, which is very nicely done. Lots of detail work in that. It looks very much like a training sword, so that's very cool. Then he does come with this large apparatus of a display stand, which I'm guessing is only meant to be used with the like the arena, the ring that you can buy, or that comes with some of these guys. I don't know. I'm not familiar with them, but he doesn't come with anything to use it with. It's just a big armature for him without anything to connect it to. So it's kind of strange in that regard. Now, as far as the figure goes, like I said, it's aesthetically pleasing. The paint job is good. We have all these different finishes. It makes it look nice. And most of the articulation is pretty well designed, but he is very hollow, and that is going to be a problem in some cases. So let's go ahead and run through the articulation. We have a ball hinge on top of the neck, which, due to the sculpt, doesn't really allow anything but a little bit of wiggle like that and a little bit of rotation. Of course, if you move the ball hinge around to rotate it to the side, because you're not going to be able to do it with the head on. If you turn it the other way, you're going to have a little bit more play side to side, but not so much play forward and back. These ball hinges just aren't the best design, and they're almost impossible to get the heads back on too. There we go. And as far as the neck goes, I thought it was a ball peg, but I can only get it to lean side to side, so I'm thinking it's just got kind of like a little pivot in there, which is fine. It's not terrible, but it doesn't have a ball peg, so it's worth noting. For the shoulders, we have a ball-pegged butterfly joint, which lets the entire arm move around like that. And then you have a ball peg going into the butterfly joint to let the arm move around on top of that. That ball peg is connected to a ball hinge, which lets the arm move like that. So really, you're not going to have any trouble posing the arm. It might get a little goofy looking in some cases due to the butterfly joint, but for the most part, it's very well hidden. So I think they did a good job, especially for such a bulky figure. It looks pretty good, and you have pretty good range. The one limitation, though, is the bicep swivel. It's fairly limited. You don't have that much because it all happens inside here. So you're going to have to kind of just rely on the butterfly itself to rotate the arm rather than the arm. You do have a double hinged elbow, which gives him fairly good range for a big guy. It's more than most large characters. And you can see right there that we have that extra swivel in there that the Kinnikuman figures have, so you can rotate the arm if you want to, like that. Be aware, though, that the elbow itself is very ugly looking. I don't know why they decided to make it overlap like that, but it gives you this really weird kind of armor effect, and it doesn't look good. That's very strange. Don't know why they did that. For the wrists, we have a big ball hinge, which works nicely. No problems there. For the upper torso, we have a ball peg and a hinge. So the ball peg lets the whole thing kind of just move around and rotate a little bit, and then the hinge lets it come really far forward. So you can see from the back, that's how it is when it's all the way forward. And then when we bring it back, it goes all the way back. So you get pretty good range out of that. Now for the lower torso, we have the exact same type of articulation. We have the ball peg, which has incredibly good range. The whole thing can move around all over the place. Obviously, you will have some gapping as you move that around because it's hollow, and that's what happens. So that's not great, but it does afford a ton of movement, and there is a hinge in there also. So if you really want to bring him forward, it goes all the way down. all the way forward. So lots of range for being such a big guy. These guys all have little ball peg hinges on them, so they'll move around out of the way. You don't really have to worry about them too much. It's a little tricky sometimes. You have to bring them forward and then they'll move around, but they're not going to be a problem. For the hips, this is just a big floating piece, which I don't care for. It's too floaty. In many cases, it just bounces around. It ends up not being where it's supposed to be, but it does hide it for the most part. You have the drop-down ball hinge, just like you would expect from any of the other Kinnikuman figures. Because of that, and because it's so massive, you can bring the leg all the way forward. No problem at all with that. You can bring the leg out to the side pretty far too, so really good range. It's just very ugly in some cases. Like right now, it's pretty well hidden, especially with these guys down. But it can move around. For some reason, this side likes to pop out of place a lot more than the other side. But it's not bad. You have your thigh swivel there, which works nicely. You have your knee joint, which is not bad. For being such a big figure and being so bulky, you don't get the best range, but it's not an ugly knee joint at all. So that's pretty good. And technically, you still have that swivel in there, though you won't really be able to use it, but it is there. And then for the ankles, we have our standard Kinnikuman ankle, which is one of my favorite types of ankles. It has good range forward and back, and it can rotate around, which means you get a full ankle rocker. Now, of course, because of the pants, you won't be able to use it on this guy, but it is in there. So for the most part, aside from some egregious gapping, which is going to be inherent with any figure that is this big and this hollow, you have really good articulation on this guy, and he looks really nice. So I have to say, as odd as this figure is, and with the few flaws that it has, I recommend it. I think it's a lot of fun to have, and I think it's going to make a nice little conversation piece amongst the rest of the figures because he's just so unique looking. So I think you should get it. So there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you haven't. If you did like the video, I would appreciate that a whole bunch. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't, because I have new videos up every single day. We talk about movies, TV shows, video games, action figures, all kinds of fun stuff. So you should come back for that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.